Minneapolis City.
Post goals! What about that? What about
The People's Pitch Podcast, brought to you by Summit Brewing Company.
Hey, you out there, likely on some sort of device. What you are about to hear is the People's Pitch Podcast, the official podcast of your third place in the Western Conference, Minneapolis City SC. I am John, and joining me by my side is my weekly soccer Alfred J. Pennyworth, Mr. Nate Morales. Nate, first off, did you get that reference?
Yeah, it's Batman's. It's just straight Pennyworth. That's Batman's butler. All right.
Yeah. But now what? The season's over, man. Now what?
Now I wake up in the middle of the night weeping quietly.
Just in the fetal position, sweating pink tears.
Now I fill the void, man, with whiskey and like an unhealthy interest in Minnesota-born college soccer players as they enter into their seasons.
Right, and my tears are throwback blue. So, yeah, man, it's we're over. It doesn't mean that this organization hits stop, right? So we have so many things that are going on. We'll get into some of those, but there's many more things to be had. We'll talk a little bit about what the podcast is going to do at the end. As far as we don't need to be talking weekly about whose favorite EPL team won or shit the bed. Right, as we get in,
there's other podcasts for that.
There's other podcasts for that. We don't need to be talking to Matt Elder and Andy and Engel and Wexler, who are in town every week. So we'll adapt things, but we'll get into that later. But we're almost out of time on the soccer parking meter. Before we do that, we're gonna get to some things that we have to cover off still. So like our final match this past weekend against Woodbury United. We'll do a quick look into the PLA playoff picture. You do such a great job of doing that rundown. and we'll do a little end of the year recap. And what we mean by recap is the thoughts on the organization, how things went, the big wins for the organization, maybe even the big wins on the field. Teachable moments, we talked about them, so might as well talk about those and how we kind of overcame some. Next steps, what do we do now? Like we just said, now what? Mm-hmm. Talk about a little review of the coaching staff, run down, what we saw and kind of the hurdles they had to climb and how they did. And then players, right? The unofficial People's Pitch Awards, as well as the random breakdown of each individual player. We'll go through our young player of the year, most improved, surprise player of the year, and then our overall team MVPs for not just the general MVP, but offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year. And then, we'll talk a little bit about what the organization will do for awards later as well. But let's just dive right in, Nate, unless there's anything else you want to say before we get in.
No, man, let's do this.
All right, so you were there in attendance. I was on the bench doing my civic duty.
Yeah, I had a great time in the stands, man.
So you said you were around. Basically, give me a breakdown of what you saw from your side of things and who was there and whatnot.
It felt like family night for Minneapolis City. I sat right near Samuel's parents and his sisters. I think the Hoof family was there. I saw Goose and his parents were back there behind me. The elders were there as usual. They love to show up.
Duncan's parents were there. The family Forsgren.
Yep, I definitely saw the youngest Forsgren. You can tell they all look fairly similar. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it was definitely family night, which is funny for being an away game. But we had everyone's parents come out to see him. I think part of it had to do with like a lot of these kids either played out in St. Croix and that's that part of town. I know Connor and his family were there too.
Yep.
So like
Will's family was there
on that side of town, or like they went to high school at Eastridge. So they're all like, I know Samuel, his family lives in Woodbury. So anyway, it was an easy game for everyone to show up to, and I'm glad we gave them some fireworks.
They probably had Samuel's family probably had a killer tailgate at their pregame party at their house, right? Like,
hopefully, you'd hope so.
Just traditional Spanish cooking as far as the eye could see.
Yeah, hope that would be awesome. Maybe he can invite me next time.
Yeah, well, I mean, he and I had things to do, but obviously you and the family could have totally gone.
Right.
But you were also donning your throwback jersey, and I heard you yell a comment about my coaching style, and I turned around and to see you holding an umbrella to shade the sun, wearing
Well,
your throwback jersey like a flapper.
my family is pale. I'm not, but I have to protect my family.
Right.
But then, so yeah, I had the throwback jersey on. Olin had the factory direct double extra small
Yeah, I saw that.
away kit. That was like a special order that took them 2 months to process and 2 months to deliver. So that was nice to have finally for one game.
It comes from many bodies of water away. So, but and we also had a great contingent of the citizens actually who posted up right behind the United bench and just gave them hell the entire game.
I loved it.
It was so great.
And they were contagious, man. Because even on our side, when they started stomping around, we were stomping too. The parents got into it. It was definitely, they set the tone.
They did, and we'll get into that with our teachable moments, right? Because that was one of our first ones ever. And I definitely want to hit on that. But I thought the best thing that came out of the supporter section was kind of in like a crucial moment of stoppage in the second half. When one of their players got fouled by the bench and he came off to get water and it was silent and you just hear a random voice go, "Hey, number 23, seen any good movies lately?" And I lost it. I look over at Jeremy and Adam and I'm thinking,
that's got to be hashtag Mitch.
It was definitely Mitch. I talked to him after the game. It was totally him. But it was just the most random thing, and all the things they were saying were funny, and obviously in good-hearted fun. But that one really got me because it had nothing to do with anything. And then the guy just kind of looked up as he drank his water, thinking like, "Who are these fools?" But anyways, let's get into the game. So the final score 3-3, goals from both sides. It was our last game of the year, pride on the line, and our chance to finish in third place with the result. So we needed a point, and we got it. And that was kind of the takeaway from our locker room speech in the beginning of the game was we cannot lose this game. We said that 3 games in a row, and what has happened? We have lost 2 of those. So this is our last opportunity to put the badge on and play hard and really bookend this season. And I thought the guys did well. We got a chance, to show what we were made of. We dug our patented classic us hole right away, giving up a goal in like the first 15.
Yeah, if that.
And just came out flat. And, Jeremy looks at me and he's shaking his head. He talks about how soccer is fun and it's a gift. And then, of course, he said, "I hate soccer. It sucks. It's so, it's so painful." Blaming himself for what he considered a lackadaisical warm-up, which I didn't think so. I thought the guys were kind of buzzing around. So we dig our hole right away. And, we go down early again. And then, kind of what led into that from what I saw, and I'd like to hear kind of what you saw because I talked to some people who got a different perspective from being higher up. It started with mistakes in the back line. We talked about being a little bit more direct, like we talked about it against Cedar Rapids last week, and we saw it, a few times with us getting direct and going forward, and that's when we started to create something, and we started to get our energy back. But it was the side to side passes that maybe got a weird high bounce on the turf, and it was the same stuff over and over again. And that's what I saw. What did you see?
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I think it's always an adjustment for us when we play on a field like we do, and when we go to a pristine. The same thing happened in Cedar Rapids. Same thing happened. Well, that was pretty much it.
It didn't happen in Madison.
It didn't happen in Madison. That's true. I mean, we did get scored on a couple times too in Madison.
Right.
I think that we have a hard time adjusting to a pristine field where passes can get zipped around. I feel like the 7 guys that like kind of man the back part of the center mid and the defense, they kind of get stuck together in a blob. They're trying to all, I don't know. I feel like they allow some really well delivered long balls to be dangerous. That's what happened early. That's kind of what happened in the second half too. Like they coagulate in the middle of the field, and all of a sudden, we forget that the field is wider than it is at home.
It's longer.
And it's longer, and it's like there's a lot more room than you think there is, guys, and they get beat around the edge pretty easily.
Yeah, I think your take on the midfield and the back line kind of being connected, and more so connected in our defensive third. The next thing I saw was the fact that there was a large gap again between our attacking minded players and our defense and our midfield. So there was this weird like gap where again you see a guy like our target forward was Matthew Guay this game with Andy on the bench. And the same thing. It didn't matter. You could have put Andy in, and he would have done the exact same thing like he always does. So
yeah, we talk about that all the time. That it's too bad that Andy kind of ends up alone on an island, and lo and behold, Guay was alone on an island out there. It didn't really matter who he had.
Right, and part of that kind of accumulated into us not having anything going forward. And it was really frustrating. And I'll give the reserve some credit. They brought it. They wanted it. They didn't want to lose that game, and they fought really hard. And there was a totally different team that, from what I saw, I mean, same relative players, but different attitude and different mentality from the first time we played them.
Yeah, that's a surprise. I actually had that same note that it felt like a different team. Yeah.
So, we go down 1-0. I was up off the bench barking orders. Jeremy was up off the bench. Adam was up off the bench. And it seemed like every 5 minutes it was a different player in a different level of the field for us saying, you need to be doing this because you're doing that and it's not working, or there's no energy. And after the first goal, I thought Elder did a good job of rallying the troops, which is tough for a goalie, being that you just got scored on. But, he was trying to motivate the guys, on corner kicks, making diving to make a save to keep a ball out of the net and to go wide for a corner. And he's the first guy up barking, like, we got to get better. We got to do this. We got to do that. And then I kind of mentioned something to AO, like, dude, it's so quiet out there. Like, it was really quiet. Really quiet. We don't have a whole lot of talkers on the team. We have a couple of them.
It makes interviews hard too.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So you're not gonna lean on a guy like Will to be the vocal leader. He's gonna lead by example with his play. And same with the guy like Samo. He's not really, and Wexler. They're not talkers. And even AJ leads by example, like those other guys do. They lead by their play on the field, and it was quiet. And AO is the type of guy that you can lean on the field, and I thought he did a good job of kind of getting the guys going. But then we're talking on the bench as a coaching staff, and we're saying, and I told Jeremy, I said, I'm gonna go into the locker room and I'm gonna get angry. I'm not gonna point fingers and talk about, we're in a weird locker room where, or the locker rooms are a half mile away. And I'm not going to talk about the intangibles. I'm going to talk about the fact that we are not doing what we said we needed to do. And it's our last chance to do it. And we need to fire up and do it. And they punch us in the face, and we need to respond to either punch them back in the second half or, to lose this game. Again, a must-win game. And lo and behold, the tides change. I saw AJ start to get forward for the first time, truly being that box-to-box center midfielder, where he was pushing the guys in front of him forward, which was great to see because then we were closing that gap with our offense. We made a tactical switch of putting Will Kidd underneath Matthew Guay and moving Wexler out wide. And,
and that was something we learned we could do a couple games ago.
Yep, and I thought Will, and we'll get to when we start talking about the goals, I thought that was a stroke of genius. I won't take credit for it, but it was a collective decision that we were like, Will's the only one who has energy right now, and where are we losing the ball most? Underneath Matthew. So let's change that. And what that did was it took the play that Matthew had, where his movement was dynamic. He was strong on the ball. He was hard to knock off the ball, which are things that we've seen, but not a lot of glimpses of it. And I thought this was his best game, I thought. And then the engine that Will had was pressing their back line. So all the work that Matthew was doing to try to find the ball, Will was on the other side of the coin doing that on the defensive end right away from our forward line. Then Samo started to get forward instead of sideways. Connor started to press on the wing, and then things started to happen.
Yeah, I think those are all great changes. Connor looked meek kind of early.
He was a little nervous. I think he was a little nervous.
He's young.
He's young. It was his second start. He was at home, like we talked about. So
Yep. So he wasn't, he wasn't really challenging on his side hard. He was getting beat pretty bad as the first line of defense down that side. I think Samo was a little too side to side, and his dad would agree with me.
I heard his dad.
His dad was behind me screaming the whole time, "Arriba, Samo, arriba!" trying to get him up, move up the damn field, basically. And then that left, like we said, Guay was just kind of alone up top, like Andy Laurie tends to be.
Right. So then the outcome of that pressure and the change that we made with moving Will in the middle resulted in, again, us creating quality chances, which came off with our first goal, kind of a link-up play with Will and Matthew, where Matthew really strong on the ball and just kind of a never-die attitude.
Dude, he powered that thing in, took him 2 or 3 kicks to get it out of past the keeper, but
right. It was definitely just pure determination, and him making. I thought he made a really dynamic run in between 2 defenders and a little slip through slotted pass from Will that sprung him free, and he scored his goal. So then we're tied. Okay, so when we have energy, and the guys were starting to get into it, and then. The St. Croix connection strikes. Where
I loved it. I thought it was so great.
It was everything about it had just stunk of St. Croix, like U16 days, where Will dropped back from his forward position into the middle to receive the ball, did a great turn around his defender, and slotted a nice pass to through the channel to Samo, who...
And I thought Samo was going to shoot.
Yep, I did too. I absolutely did. And he had an opportunity to score. Gave a quick glimpse to the back post, found Connor, slots the ball through to Connor. Connor scores the goal.
Yeah.
The exact type of goal that we should score, right?
Great vision,
link-up play, just smart passing. And that's about as the textbook definition of effective possession as you can have.
And that's why Samo was on our team. That's what we needed, was effective possession out of someone.
Right. So then we're up 2-1, and now we're the super buzz is on, right? We're
this is gonna happen. We're making this happen.
We're we've flipped the switch back to the first game we played against them when we hit our high, right?
Yep.
And then it didn't end there. Will Kidd again was involved in a great hold-up play where a ball comes into him, and I thought it was kind of a bad pass into him, a little too much weight on it, really hard. Yeah. Great first touch. To have a nice little soft back pass to Wexler, who comes through and hammers home the third goal and the final goal of the game for us against his old team. So it was all the stars were aligning. The kids from St. Croix score a goal together. Matthew scores a goal with pure determination off of a great run. Wexler scores against his old team. Patented don't celebrate against your old squad.
Yeah, man, nothing wrong with that. I think that I think it might be something that when you're in the stands, it feels different than when you're on the field. I'm sure there's a lot more that you see down there.
Yeah.
But goddamn, I wanted someone to just rip one from distance all season. Mm-hmm. And it's something that we just haven't had. And I'm sure there's always guys in the way, or there's always, you always want to take that extra touch to make sure you're getting the right angle on it. But he just disintegrated that ball. And I loved it. I thought, thank God, someone finally just lined the thing in from deep. But what I liked about it is all 3 goals were thanks to moving the ball forward and shooting when you have the opening, right?
And
it's okay
direct.
To be selfish. Yeah, be direct and be selfish. There was a time, I think Will had, before you moved him to the middle in the first half, Will had the ball coming down the right wing, and he was one-on-one with the guy. And he should have just broke that dude down. He should have just wrecked him. But instead, he looked to pass it off, and he ends up giving it over right in the middle of the field back to the reserves. And I thought, dude, should have just shot it. And finally, we started shooting it. I loved it.
We got a teachable moment for us for next season. You don't have to always pass the ball into the goal. You can shoot it. So we go into halftime, and like I said, our halftime speech changed. It changed into soccer's fun now. We're all having a great time. Let's just go out there and keep doing it. And we as a staff kind of felt a little bit like maybe we're a little too lackadaisical with our halftime talk. And it being the last game, we promised all the guys to get in, so the changes started to happen in the second half. And then, of course, what do we say? The worst thing that can happen is for us to let down and let them score a goal right away. And what did they do? Let down. Away. They scored a goal right away. Then they come up back and score another goal. And it's just like, this cannot be happening. Then it went from soccer's fun to soccer sucks again. Like, this is
this is the worst. Why do I do this?
Yeah,
it's like golf.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot like golf. Like, man, I actually hit the fairway off the tee this time, and then I duffed my second shot into the woods. Could have done that the first time. Now I'm down 3 strokes with a penalty. So we dug ourselves the hole again, and it was just like, God, not again. So as the changes started to happen, we started to see a couple bright spots with the changes that we had. We just gave up silly chances, and I thought we made the decision to split the keepers at half to get them each equal minutes in the last game. So Matthew started, or Matt Elder started, and then Duncan came on at halftime. And you could just, it seemed like there was like visible nerves from at least down pitch side. I don't know what you saw.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Duncan was quiet. I think he lacked some decision-making in the box. I think there was even a time when he definitely misread the ball, came out, and was like, he had to end up standing like right in the last like inches of the goal line, where he waiting for the ball to hopefully get to him before the player running at him got to the ball. Like, that was a dangerous moment where we could have given up yet another goal.
Right.
But I think, just there were a lot of times on corners, on crosses into the box where he was not as vocal as I think we would have liked to see him, and nobody really knew if they should go for it, if he was going to end up for it, if he knew where the ball was. I think the communication back there was lacking.
Well, and for a guy like him with his size, it's like you must vaporize forwards that come into your area. Like, you need to turn them into dust.
Yeah.
And just run through them because you're such a big dude. Then of course classic Duncan makes 2 reaction saves that are goal saving.
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome saves. And you're like, why can't you couple that with just the attitude of I own this box, and all who come into this box not wearing my team's color must die.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. Is why is he hanging back and hoping someone else makes a play on this ball? Get out there and punch the shit out of it.
Right. So, but he kind of got into the game a little bit, and then he started to do that, which was great. So then it was a whole lot of humping a doorknob, back and forth, just half-hearted chances. And then we made our final sub of Laurie coming on from Matthew Guay up top. And Andy, we by design just burned out. A lot of soccer.
Yep.
And he said, I got a good 20 minutes in me. So we put him on 20 minutes in. And then came our last ditch effort, corner kick.
Oh.
And I just leaned over to Jeremy and I said, here's where we get one back, coach. And lo and behold, the stars are aligning where the ball popped in. Andy goes up to head it, heads it towards goal, bounces underneath the diving goalkeeper, off the post, game ends. It was right there. It was like when the Bavarians hit the post against us in Milwaukee in the first game.
Yep. Just we were just hanging on for dear life.
That's it.
It felt like an appropriate metaphor for the season.
It really did. Just a wet fart. But
just we weren't too sure what to expect in this game. We end up kind of getting behind. We come on strong. We come into ourselves, right, and then we give it all away like we did in the second half of the season, and we end up with a draw.
That's why soccer is a gift. It giveth and it taketh away.
So
what do we take away from this game?
What do you take away from the last game of the season? How do we walk away from this thing and not just go well, that happened. all right, see you next year.
I mean-
right? I think we want to look at like the United Reserves got better, and I feel like maybe we underestimated them for sure going into this game, considering how bad they were when we ran into them in the first half of the season. But also with this game, I thought it was great to see some players that we don't get much of a look at. Hoof had some significant play time. Connor, of course, scoring that goal was great. I think you could again reinforce that E-Man, Emmanuel Brown,
He played great.
It can hold down his side of the field no problem.
I thought even Steve came on and played great too. Like
he did.
Our bench once again played great.
Yep, and Jack. Good to see Jack again on the field one last time. So here at the end of the season, it got kind of clear that the scouting report was out on us. You beat us up top. I think over the last few games where we've struggled, we got beat up top over and over and over again. Somebody figured it out. And we just have a hard time adjusting to teams gumming up the middle.
And then playing that long ball.
Yep, because our wingers are reluctant to bomb in. So if they can gum up the middle and counter with a long ball, there's not a lot. There isn't a lot, or we didn't really have an answer to that.
Right.
So for us, finally, like in this game and in the season, success came when we moved forward together, and 3 to 4 guys up top to take some initiative.
Right. So we end the season. What was it? 3-3-3?
3-4-3, three wins. No, 3-3-4.
3-3. We had 4 losses.
10 games. I don't know how it works, but 4 draws.
Yeah. So we had 4 draws, 3 losses, 3 wins.
Yep.
There is such the first season that we have. So
yeah,
might as well get into a little PLA news.
So
let's talk about what's happening.
To make the playoffs, but we knew that. We knew that last week that we were out. So it's set, man. We've got Toledo and RWB Adria from the east, and the Bavarians and Crapids from the west. The number 1 seed plays the number 4 seed, so that means Toledo plays Crapids or Adria?
Crapids. Yeah.
And then, so Bavarians and Adria.
Yep.
So the semifinals are going to be on Saturday and the finals on Sunday. So this is a 1-weekend tournament.
Yep, and it's going to be streamed live. So, and not like our type of stream, like a good one.
A real one?
A real one. Not like a high school kid who's got a GoPro.
Yep.
Even though he did a great job throughout the season.
Yes, thank you. Even good keeping up with the players. It's kind of hard.
Yeah,
to know who's who, especially when you're coming in this league.
So we'll
John,
post,
who do you think it's going to be then? Who's winning? Who's winning it all?
Well, we'll post the link to the stream so everyone can follow our Twitter feed. We'll put it out there.
Oh, that would be nice.
But I feel like hell has to freeze over for it not to be Toledo versus Bavarians. Like, come on, give us like 1 versus 1, in the final. However, I could see a team like Adria catching a Bavarian team that's looking past this game into the amateur national finals.
Yeah, they've got their own tournament that they're doing really well in, right?
Right. Well, it's
outside of the PLA.
Yeah, I mean it's the amateur it's the amateur semifinals, and it's the following weekend. So it's like, what do you do?
What do you focus on? Yeah.
What do you focus on? So I could see that happening. Like, do they play a full team and roll the dice of burning them out for the final, and then for next weekend? The following weekend, I mean, or do they play like a different squad in our tournament versus that tournament? So it's like, who do they bring? I think they're going to play. They got strong players no matter who they are. So I hope I have my hands together right now in prayer fashion that it's going to be Toledo versus the Bavarians. I really want to see that. However, Crapids could play the spoiler role because of their style of play, right?
Yeah, they're fast, man. They're moving in and out. They got some. That Gordy, he's a dick, but man, that guy's fast.
I mean, outside of the fact that the guy is kind of a jerk, they finish their chances and they create them. They may create their chances via an unorthodox avenue, but they create them and they finish them. So you could also see Adria making a return trip back to the finals. So who knows? We will see. So that's TBD. We'll cover what happens. Excuse me, on that next week in our next week's show. But let's talk end of the season recap. Let's let's put a bow on year one.
Let's bring it back home. So, as guys are shifting gears to either back to college or going to college for the first time or just life after city, as older semi-pros, that doesn't mean we have to, right?
No, it does not.
Let's recap how this stuff went. Some organizational thoughts. I think we came out of the gate really strong. I think we found out that we had a lot to learn, but it was all totally worth it.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, awesome summer, right? Like, I couldn't have drawn this up if I was given the stencil. There, and like you said, there's some things that sucked, like the crappy travel schedule we had back to back going to Iowa and Milwaukee with 18 guys limping into that 1-0 loss against the Croatians, which should have been a win, which would have actually probably put us into the tournament, to be honest with you. The player movement that we constantly had with either guys leaving or trying out and bringing in new guys and just being a new organization, to our famous home pitch or infamous home pitch. But overall, we overcame my expectations, and despite some bad bounces, we finished third place, which is great.
Yeah.
Hang the head high, right?
Yep. Hold your head high.
Yeah. Well, hang or hold, whatever you want to do with it.
we had some big wins along the way, man, and there are definitely a season's worth of them. I think starting with our home win, the comeback win against Madison was one of my favorite moments. We'll talk about that later. It was great to see these guys actually being able to produce on the field. Just even though we pumped them up and were very potentially overconfident coming up into the season, it's nice to see that the talent we had delivered on that.
Well, right. We coined the phrase, professionally amateur, TM. That was ours. And I thought we really held that true to form the whole season. But I felt the ability to draw this level of young talent and veteran leadership will only make us dangerous going forward into year two, now knowing what to expect, right?
Yep.
Because we had no idea. Like, we knew, personally, I knew what the Bavarians were going to bring. And, you can rewind back to the early episodes. I don't think I was wrong. You can correct me.
No.
I knew what we were going to get with the Croatians. I knew we were going to get with Madison. Crapids was kind of an outlier. And we knew what the reserves were, right? And there were no real surprises.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think once we started playing these teams, there was a little bit of a surprise. Even Madison managed to surprise us with their ability to pick us apart on set pieces. Mm-hmm. But it was great because these guys leading into the season mostly hadn't really played together.
None of them, really. I mean, outside of
a few of them, growing up. But like next year, they're going to be more experienced, and for those that come back, they're going to be more comfortable with each other.
Yeah, and I think on the field, I thought that our big win was our first ever win, our first win against Minnesota United. That was when we put in some goals, started to kind of puff the chest out and play our own game, which we knew how to play. And we showed what we were kind of made of at that point. And I think that was a real big turning point in the season that showed us, like, you know what? If we really just get our act together, like top to bottom, organization-wise and on the field, we really have a shot at making the playoffs in our first year. And maybe, shocking some people that thought we were just a bunch of loudmouths, on social media.
Yeah. And I mean, we talk about teachable moments a lot, joking around a little bit, kind of halfway, but we had a few of them.
Right. I think the first one being that we were a young base, right? I mean, 75% of our roster, I was looking at it today, is under the age of 21. So that's pretty big, right?
Yeah.
And we went up against grown-ass men. So we have this young base of players in this league. And we found that, we were in need of that cohesion between our younger players and our older players because they hadn't played together. And the older guys can adapt to playing with whoever as long as they're good at soccer, right? Mm-hmm. And it was getting these younger guys, letting them know that they're good enough to be there and they need to continue to get better and then to get better together.
Yeah. Getting that confidence into them was very important.
Yeah, I thought the next thing was our fan base. It was kind of an unknown. Like, we're a new team. Like, we have Minnesota United their first team in our backyard. We have the reserves in our front yard. Who are we in this town, and who's going to come watch us play? And I thought that,
does anyone even give a shit?
Right. And I thought that having they found us, right? And we did some PR to get people, to get out there in the community, and, we did the camps and we did a couple of other things. And, I thought the greatest thing was that we started with this fan group that they didn't know what they were going to be either. And we had a teachable moment in Milwaukee where we talked about it at length on the podcast where, we thought maybe things didn't go the best, and they completely changed it around. And I thought we're like one of the biggest bright spots of the season.
Yes.
And I talked to some of the players too, and they're like, having a group of people who have no idea who I am, and I've never really talked to them outside of maybe some of the organization events, singing a song about me. Like that's the stuff that happens in the pros. That's a professionally amateur piece of what we have here. We have like a total amateur team. We have a total amateur supporters group, but they're acting like pros, right? I thought that was great. And we need, the last thing I have is we need more. We realized as an organization we need more help to do this, because we ran successful men's league teams, and it was more of like you get the guys on the field and then you just play soccer, and it wasn't a lot of the back of the house stuff. And with that said, there's a lot of love that we need to shout out to a few people that helped along the way. I think our intern staff of, Christian and Ashley and Nate and Leslie, I thought they did great. Just being there on game day, helping out. I thought Derek, who is a Stegman's member, who, has a connection with South where we played, was there putting in the work, helping unlock the stadium, get the audio ready, those little things that you don't think of. And then, of course, Sarah, who stepped in and really helped from an admin perspective, get our merchandise in order and help us manage the interns, and just the little things that we weren't expecting, that we couldn't do by ourselves. And then, of course, the citizens, like I mentioned, like without them, I think like all of these folks, it would have been a really hard summer.
Yeah, that's for sure. I don't know. Thanks to them, it was great to show up and have the game day experience be what it was because of them.
Well, now we don't necessarily have just throwback jerseys. We also have throwback chants, and we've
got some history behind us.
We do, right?
Some real history,
right?
So, now that the season's over, what's next, man? Like, as an organization, what is Minneapolis City looking to accomplish here in the off season?
Well, I think the first step is for all of us to go back to our families from all the time we took away from them, right?
Yeah.
But no, in all seriousness, the number one goal in my eyes is to get this group back for another year. Plain and simple. Yep. Like, yeah, we're going to lose a few pieces. We have to replace. It happens with every team, but we really have to get this group back. And there's no other important piece for me. We need to find a new field. Yeah, we need, to re-enlist the help of people who were involved this past year from an organizational standpoint. But we just need to take what we learned in year one and all these little teachable moments and look back at what did we do to fix them. And now we know the unknown. So let's just get out there, and then let's go win our division and make the playoffs next year, right? So
speaking of getting this group back together, I think that leads into two big questions that I have, and I think these are probably on the minds of the fans too. First of all, when do the signings for next season start? When are we going to start hearing about guys that are with us?
So as far as the players are concerned, I'm currently in the process of doing individual one-on-one exit interviews with each of them. And that's part of the process, is for us to find out and to discuss with these guys and with the coaching staff as we begin to draw the plan for the offseason and next year, like who's coming back, right? Like we need to know like what went well, what didn't go well. And part of the reason why I'm conducting them is so that they're fully transparent, right? I'm not going to relay, like Duncan said this, I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to do is kind of aggregate that feedback to only make us better, so that we're continuing to draw these great players. So as far as signings go, I don't think you're going to see any of that happening in the near future. But from the early indicators, there's not a whole lot of guys, none in fact, that I've talked to so far that don't want back next year. And I think you kind of heard some of the same sentiment from the parents.
Yep. Yeah, everyone seems pretty excited for what we've accomplished and for the opportunities that we have afforded them and their kids, or even the guys as players really appreciate it. So that's pretty good to hear.
Right. It's great to hear. And I think us coming out of the gates, making this team a destination for players who are coming back from Division I soccer elsewhere, or just college soccer in general. Guys like Samo and Abdallah don't play in Division I. And we have some overage players that don't play in college at all who are here. But having a destination to kind of foster that talent, to continue it so that they can, if they want to be pro soccer players and they come through our system, awesome. If they don't and they want to just come back and play like a guy like AJ who just graduated, then great. Or if you want to be a guy like Elder or Engel who played in a different team in Minnesota last year and didn't like the experience, we want to create that atmosphere for everyone. But we're going to be looking to have a limited trial period this time. We'll still have an open tryout to kind of find that diamond in the rough. But I think gone are the days now of us having like multiple tryouts and having these guys play together for months at a time. I think it burned a lot of guys out. So we're going to, look to maybe eliminate things and have 2 combines for the college guys over Christmas and spring break. And, the overage players will have the opportunity to train with Stegmans in the off season. But I know some of these guys work 40 hours a week and they're in the need of a break. So we need to give it to them.
So you're dodging the question, John. When are we going to hear about signings for next season? February? Earliest beginning of next year?
I would honestly think that you're going to hear about a few of the overage players who are in town sooner than that. Okay. I don't have a date. I have to talk through 25 player interviews, and it's going to be tough, especially with guys leaving for college next week. So it's going to be a long process. And also, we have to talk to our coaching staff and see, like, who do you want back?
Yeah.
So it's not going to be an overnight thing. I can tell you right now, I know of 3 guys who are absolutely 100% in for next year that are in town.
Secondly, when does the search for a new stadium begin, if it begins at all?
So the stadium thing has been in the works all season, actually, and we've been working on it. But for some reason, it's super hard. People don't really care about this as much as we do. Shocker, I know, right?
Oh, you mean like other schools and things?
Yeah. Other schools, government organizations, they're like, who are these guys and what are they trying to do? So now we have 1 full year of proof of concept, so we can start shopping ourselves around for a better ground. But let's not lose sight of the fact that we can't take anything away from South. They were great for us in year 1. Without them, we really had no team because we had to have a destination. So I think that, part of, we crap all over our field. And the location I thought was great.
Crapping on the field?
Yeah, I mean, how do you think the grass grows? I mean, it's South Minneapolis. There's got to be some crap on that field. So, we short sight our field because the conditions aren't the best, but they were a great home for us in year 1. I kind of think it suited us well, right? Like, yeah, whatever, we just roll with that punch. So that conversation is still happening, I think.
Cool. All right. So let's get to some staff and player reviews and awards. I think you and I have kind of been sharing our opinions of the staff and the players quite a bit over the course of the season on this here podcast. Mm-hmm. But, to make it officially unofficial, we might as well hand out some of our fake awards, right?
It's like when you put your relationship status on Facebook.
Yeah.
it's official somewhere.
Yeah. Let's start with the coaching staff, man. I mean, your thoughts on the coaching staff?
Well, I thought once I joined it really got better.
I'm with you.
No, I'm just all joking aside. I think in year 1 of any team, coaching is crucial, and I think it was a huge task. You got to build the team, right? To build the vision, and we had no idea what we would be, and the recruiting process was we're casting a wide net, and I thought that the efforts that Keith put in early on were just I don't know how else to explain it than kind of like miraculous, because not only were we able to like build a team to like field, we were able to build a competitive team in year one that almost made the playoffs. And you know, not to even lose sight of the fact of the efforts that Jeremy put in and that Adam put in their specific roles, kind of assisting Keith. And, you know, it was all incredible. I thought they did a great job. And, you know, we put together legitimately the best group of amateur players we could have gotten in Minnesota, really only missing out on one player in Jackson Ewell, who had significant interest in playing with us. However, he had something called the U.S. National Under-20 team to tend to. So it was like the clear no-brainer for that kid, right?
Yeah.
So I thought our coaching staff did great. You know, yeah, can we tighten some things up from an organizational perspective so we have a full-time training facility at home that we don't have to constantly be worried about moving? You know, yeah, can we maybe lay the plan out a little bit better for our training sessions and our focus going into matches? You know, yeah, could we maybe be hitting our stride like the Bavarians and Toledo and even Crapids, I think, hitting their stride towards the end of the season instead of us hitting our stride in the middle of the season? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can do all of that. But that's things that we'll foster from this first year and the things that we learned. And hats off to the coaching staff. I think they did a great job.
So let's dive into the player reviews then. We'll start with the guys that kept goal.
What did you think of the coaches?
Me? Oh, what do I matter? I thought, I'll tell you what, man, I agree with you that I think at the start of the season, there's just so many connections and so many relationships that Keith had built with people throughout his career in Minnesota, where he was able to get a lot of response to these open tryouts. And that, you know, that was coupled with the great connections that you guys have through Stegman's, that just like, it was so awesome to see this pool of pretty much anyone that plays soccer in Minnesota come out to try to be on this team. Right. And I commend them for having to sift through all that talent and to put together the best, most entertaining team possible. I have no doubt that they did that based on our criteria of, you know what, we want homegrown talent. We're not trying to get guys from actually Croatia.
And I think we're the only team in the league that actually has 100% homegrown talent.
Yeah, it's definitely something to hang our hat on.
And being young, like we had a lot of 8 balls in front of our cue ball, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. So I think the other coach I want to mention, or I just want to mention that I think Coach Jeremy was a great positive influence on the team. And I think that, you know, from the start, he had the right attitude about how to, you know, get the guys motivated and get them together. I think that, you know, tactically, we've got things to learn and we've got ways to learn how to get these guys to work better together. But in general, I think I'm just loving our philosophy.
Yeah, no, I think we echo each other's sentiments.
Yeah. So anyway, now for real, onto the player reviews.
Okay, so
goalkeepers.
What do you
think, man?
Let's start off with number one. Number one on his jersey, number one in our hearts. Matt Elder. You know, hats off to this guy, right?
Yeah.
Breaks his leg in Detroit playing in the NPSL last year in front of like 5,000 fans. Like the stars don't align for him there. Like probably the biggest game that he played with the Minnesota Twin Stars last year. Breaks his leg and almost less than a year later comes back and is like our rock, right? Yeah. And not only just making saves and keeping us in games and being the now pace setter in career shutouts and minutes played and saves for our goalkeeping staff, and in a benchmark that needs to happen in the future, really was an unknown for some of us. And he put in the work and he got fit and he got back into you know, where he was before he was injured. And I thought without a guy like that on the field with his ability, leading that goalkeeping room, as far as our goalkeeping staff is concerned, as well as off the field and just his general attitude. You've heard him many times on this podcast and interviews. The dude is all in on City, and we're lucky to have had him.
Yeah.
and to
That's
have
for
him
sure.
in the future.
And he's just a great ambassador to, when we get him out to all the happy hours and things, just talking to fans, talking to the kids, as much as, he's kind of a surly dude. He really opens up to some of these kids, and, there's a lot of, he's doing a lot of chatting out there, and I really appreciate that.
So next we have Mr. Whirling, Duncan, our UCLA bound Duncan Whirling. I thought Duncan had both an up and down season. A lot of travel for him with the DA, a lot of weird, like he can't play yet because he's in the DA, trying to win his spot. I think when it comes to talent wise, he and Matt are 1A and 1B, however you want to slice it. I think what he has to learn is going from being man boy to man.
Yeah.
As far as his game is concerned, and that he will learn that in college, because you look at Matt's gone through that already, where Duncan has that to learn. And that's what one great thing was, Matt as the leader in the clubhouse for the goalkeepers really provided that that tone for all of them, and they all got along, which was great. But Duncan's got some things to learn, maybe knock off that early jitters that he has when he goes into games, and it'll come in college. It absolutely will come in college. So, I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think, it's, as much as we kind of criticize him a little bit for not being as assertive as we need him to be when he's on the pitch, it's definitely a different game out there, and it's different. It's different for him to step on the field and see a bunch of high school kids than it is
Right.
to step on the field and see a bunch of grown men that are, that have 10 years on them in some instances, and be expected to own the game like we expect a goalkeeper to. So it'll come, and hopefully we have him back next year. But if we don't, I know it's because he's on to bigger and better things.
Right, 100% agree. The next two guys in our goalkeeping room kind of get an incomplete because they didn't see any game action. One, big game James. James was our third string keeper. Spent majority of his summer being the number one for our reserve team, Stegman City, who is one win away from winning the league title in our men's first division. So James put in a ton of work. Knew his role and his place in the clubhouse, and never a bad attitude, always supportive. Came when he was needed, and just did his job. And he had a different full-time job from a soccer perspective with Stegman's, and he did that. So hats off to him. And then Chairman Hudeman getting his almost getting his debut in Madison when we thought Elder went down hurt. You rewind the clock a few years, and you'd look at from a skills standpoint, Mr. Hudeman being the leader in the clubhouse with much like Matt was, with his experience and his just natural ability to be a shot stopper and a commanding goalkeeper and a vocal leader. So that rounds out our goalkeeping staff. I thought, we didn't win every game, and you can kind of point the finger at the last line of defense, which is always the goalie. But I think no matter who it was in net, gave us a chance to win.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. On the defense, speaking of guys that give us a chance to win, I think our defense this year was pretty spectacular. Starting with, of course, the anchor of our backline and the captain of the team, Trey. With Trey, quiet guy when we were talking to him early in the season, but man, when he's on the field, he definitely asserts himself, doesn't he?
Right. Total quiet leader. He's one of our captains with Matt and AO, who we'll get to in a minute. But with Trey, you see the makings of a pro soccer player. He's got the size, he's got the ability, he reads the game dynamically from the back line. I believe outside of the Fargo game, he played every minute of the season for us.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do when you're coming off a college season and then you have a week break and you're on a van to Des Moines for the preseason for us. And I thought, hats off to him. Time after time, he bailed us out when it came, whether it was, winning a ball in the air or picking off that pass that a forward was trying to slot to their partner through a channel. Really made it so that, when a ball came through and it was one-on-one with Trey, everyone in the stands is like, oh, he's got this.
Yeah, I was never worried about
Never
Trey
worried.
getting beat one-on-one. Rarely a bad touch. So
Played through
awesome to
injury
have him.
a little bit. So, yeah, awesome to have him. Hopefully, he's one of those guys that can make that jump that, we would be blessed to have him back. But if not, we are glad to have him on the books with City.
Yeah. So speaking of guys that played with injury, Nate Engel. This guy was limping around felt like half the season, but he was still kind of a rock on defense, still a force in the air. I don't think the guy ever lost a header.
Right. I completely agree with you. I think with a guy like him and matching him with Trey, like that's a central back pairing that doesn't let a lot through. And like you said, he was injured throughout some of the season and played through it, didn't complain, just went out there, did his job against Milwaukee. On his birthday, we asked him to play a central midfield role, and he just stepped in and just did it, and just did like a boss, and showed versatility, leadership. Again, a quiet guy, not going to go out there and start screaming at everyone and get them motivated. I'm sure he has that ability, but not what we asked for from him. We asked for him to do a job, and he did the whole season.
Another guy that's quiet, that I think the only thing I've ever heard him say was when he talked to you in an interview, was Abdallah Ba.
Yeah.
And I think quietly, this guy was probably the best outside defender in the league.
He disgraced the team, the team of the week multiple times.
And you talk about a consistent week-to-week all-star.
Right.
It's official. Like, the guy was probably made the team of the week for 50% of the season. Right.
And I think that when it came to his play on the field, a one-on-one defender, like, lockdown, right? And 9 times out of 10, he was facing a speedy forward or a speedy winger, and just constantly locking the guy down, just doing his job. Again, another quiet guy. Very rarely was I ever worried when a through ball came through that he wasn't going to get there. Positionally, always in the right spot. I didn't know much about him coming in. I heard he was silky smooth and just tenacious in his own fashion until I actually saw it. And wow, love to have that guy back and hope to get him back.
Another guy I want to talk about real quick that exceeded expectations, at least for me, is Aaron Olson. I think there were a lot of guys, not to disparage the Stegman's pool, but there were a lot of guys that you kind of had sold as coming out of Stegman's that I thought, well, these are guys that kind of play on your level, John, and maybe they have a bench or a reserve role on the team. But Aaron Olson, man, this guy stepped up and was a total leader on the field, super vocal, and he could play any position on defense, and I'd be happy to have him there.
Right, and he was our third captain of the year and really earned it, played like it. I would be surprised if in a foot race any forward, maybe outside of Gerson, is gonna beat him to a ball.
Yep.
Much like Abdallah, locked down, never worried. Actually, I'm sure he's gonna hate this when he listens to it. Played the entire season with a groin injury, and you would have never known.
Sorry, ladies.
Yeah. So yeah.
That didn't make any sense.
Yeah. Weird. But day in and day out, came to training, worked his ass off, and made a few teams of the week. One, I think, a little undershadowed by how great his partners were back there that throughout the league. But very rarely did you ever see him being the guy with his head down, chasing a forward who put one in the back of the net. It was very rarely ever his guy.
Yep. And let's finish up defense with 2 guys that kind of joined us a little late, but were still able to contribute. First of all, Lance Gaspar contributed with a goal in the Madison away game, which was great. Yep, the winner. And he's moving on to what school?
He's entering his second year at University of Dayton.
Dayton, that's right. I knew it was something out east a little bit. And then, of course, Emmanuel Brown, E-Man. Super happy to have this guy on the team. like you said, he kind of came into tryouts, made an impression, and then just kind of melted away. Like just walked off into the night, and we didn't see him for maybe due to some communication issues. We didn't really see him on the field until that same Madison game that Lance scored. So it was great to have both those guys join us on a crucial away win, and I think they were able to both contribute in their own way as the season rounded out. Especially Emmanuel, I was really impressed with this guy.
Well, I mean, you look at both of them, and they're kind of like the either side of the coin, right? So it's like Lance is growing into his own, a former forward in high school, playing, a defensive role in college, and then coming in with us and playing on the defense. And how do you for both of these guys, how do you unseat Abdallah and AO, right? It's really through your play. And I thought both did a great job, whether it was coming off the bench or getting those spot starts. And for a guy like Lance, it's only a matter of time until he kind of is past that torch from one of these other guys. And the same with Emmanuel being, more of a men's league player and being around the block for a while, but just coming in and doing his job.
Yeah, man. So on to midfielders.
Yep.
You're gonna handle these.
Yeah,
Holy
I mean,
crap,
there's like
a ton of midfielders.
400 of them. So let's start off with Kevin Hoof. So Kevin goes to University of Northern Michigan, and I thought with Kevin, we kind of played him at outside back a few times when we really needed to kind of attack a little bit and have a little more of attacking mind coming out of the back. But he's I believe he's 19 years old, plays far older than he is on paper, and really stepped in and did exactly what we asked him to do. Great short-term memory, made a few mistakes. I talked to him in his end of the season interview, and I said, from the first day I saw him to when I saw him play yesterday, just wow, like that guy has just grown, and that was kind of what we were looking for, fostering that growth potential. And I thought he did great. He was never asked to do something more than he could handle. And in some instances, it looked like it was a little more than, out kicking his coverage a little bit. But he always performed, and he worked hard. And he's, we asked him to help out with this, our Stegman's team and in the first division. He's come to every game, and he's worked hard there and gotten more touches, and it's showed that he's gotten better. Yeah,
I think this is a guy that kind of came out of nowhere as the season ended to contribute, and it was good to see it kind of culminate on Sunday with the game against the Reserves, as he got a good chunk of playing time swapping out for Connor, and was able to hold his own.
And then you got Will Kidd.
What do you say? What do you say about Will Kidd, man?
Good at running.
Good at running.
let's bookend.
Good at running. Good at passing. Good at shooting occasionally. Good at everything.
Another guy like Kevin, where didn't start every game, but I believe featured in every game outside of maybe one. Mm-hmm. Actually, no, I think he featured in all games. Mm-hmm. Just lunch pail guy, goes to work. You can see why he was decorated in high school, because being so physically gifted, and it just would overshadow high school players. I think has a little bit to learn from a technical standpoint, which he will get in college, and he's coming off of only his first year. And when he told us on the podcast in the beginning of the year, he gained like 20 pounds since he graduated high school, and it's like solid muscle, and he's just getting strong, worked super hard, was a big bright spot for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Always awesome to see him on the field. Happy to see him score multiple goals over the course of the season.
He is your leading goal scorer in the first season of Minneapolis City.
He is.
Yeah.
So, including the Fargo game?
Including the Fargo game. It is official. Will Kidd is your Golden Boot winner.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. Yeah. I would have thought it was, I guess that makes sense. That's, 3 or 4 goals?
4, yeah.
4, yeah.
Edged out
nice.
Matthew. Yep.
Yeah, he does edge Matthew out. Huh.
And then, of course, not being selfish, set up Matthew and set up Wexler. So he might have even been the points leader. Then you have Goose. What do you say about Goose? I'll let you go first in this one.
Yeah, I mean, you think, like I said earlier in the season, you don't expect a kid to come straight out of high school and have this kind of an impact on a game with grown men. I mean, the guy was always a threat, whichever side we slotted him in on, and he demanded attention. Like, first first two games that he featured in, he drew a penalty because he was so dangerous that he was probably going to score. He's up and down the field, and it just sucks. It's just a bummer that we lost him at the end of the season to injury.
Injury cut his season short. I don't think I have any other statements other than echoing what you had. A boy among men in the beginning, and then totally grew into his own. And he's one of the guys, like many of these guys, I look forward to following in the fall and seeing if he gets some minutes at Indiana and how things work out. And hats off to him. I thought he did great. Constantly a threat, like you said, and for his position, exactly what you want. And I keep saying it, short-term memory, constantly forgetting any mistakes he made and working hard to win the ball back and going at defenders. It's what you need from a attacking wing player.
Yeah.
Next we have Ben Wexler, who, around town is probably played on every men's team possible. So blessed to have this guy in the mix, not only from a locker room perspective, very, very quiet leader, not necessarily, he doesn't talk a lot, but mostly his demeanor, just kind of a laid back dude. Just, you might catch him more at a fish show than you would on a soccer field. Just chill dude who just is a wizard on the ball. And I thought our central midfield without a guy like him, and just small in stature, but just like a big influence on a lot of the guys we had in there that he played with, as well as just on the outcome of our game, and just making the team of the week in the first week, just putting in a shift against the Bavarians, I thought was really commendable. And like, I hope we get him back next year. He would be one that I'd really, really be sad if we lost.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think when I was looking to, in some of those games when I felt like the midfield was getting gummed up, or they felt a little too pass happy, a little too lackadaisical, I was looking for someone to get assertive, get mad, and it was always Wex. It was always Wex that would be chasing the balls down, shoving dudes out of the way, getting maybe a little dirty here and there. But you got to. Yeah, you got to if you really want to make that midfield your own. And I was super happy to see him score in this our final game. Nice to see that goal. Like I said, just disintegrated that ball, put it in the back of the net,
vaporized it. In the next two, we have the brothers Forsgren. Ike and Sam. We'll start with the latter. Sam came to us late, very decorated player, comes off the bus from Europe and just scores two and sets up one in Madison.
Yeah, just the hero of Madison.
Yeah, just Madison was our toilet that day, and he was the one taking the dump in it. Just all over them. A great player. Really wish we would have had him for the full season. Really wish we were able to kind of build game plans around the guy. Had to bow out in the game on Sunday due to just preventative injury measures to make sure he wasn't getting hurt before he went to school. In the brief glimpses we got of him, man, it would have been awesome to have him the full year. But we had Ike, his brother, the full year, and you can call him the super sub, but the guy is he just came in and did work, and it was awesome to watch him play. Like, totally unassuming, just like, whatever, I'm just going to go play soccer today, and then, do his job, and then go home.
Came in, did work, set goals up, scored goals. Just not what I expected. I almost thought it was like a Mauer package deal.
Yeah,
knowing nothing about how either of them played, and just everything that we talked about Sam is like, Sam's great, and we also, by the way, have his little brother.
Right, exactly.
But Ike turned out to be the more, I feel, valuable player to us in the long run over a span of games. I think Sam had that huge impact in the Madison game, but over the span of the season, Ike was a great addition.
Right, totally agree. The next guy, AJ, the beast from the East. What do you say about AJ, other than the fact that the guy sets the tone early when it comes from a physical standpoint, and it's kind of what we needed, especially that holding midfield role, like just going through and just destroying guys, breaking up plays. Outside of, I mentioned earlier on today that on the cast here that he got box to box and was really pushing that offensive-minded midfielders forward, including getting into the attack himself. And I thought that's what we missed throughout a
Yeah.
lot of the season, especially not having the next guy who will go over the full year. But AJ is AJ, and there's not, you just wait for the moment in the game when he throttles a guy.
just the forearm. Just you can always hear that slap when AJ runs up on someone and just levels them, and that was my favorite. I did really like this guy. Loved his play. I thought he was always one step away from bailing us out of big time trouble. Mm-hmm. Just when I thought like things were getting out of hand, AJ shows up out of nowhere and boots that thing to the side. But also, I thought he was most dangerous and probably the scariest for the other team when he started moving upfield. Right. When all of a sudden he got his momentum behind him, and it was like a bull charging up the field, and you just did not want to get in his way. And it was always cool to see AJ play.
Totally agree. The next guy, Max Stigward, it's unfortunate that we didn't have him for the full season due to his obligations outside of city, whether it be playing with Paraguay's under 20, which you're like, wow, we have a youth international on our team. But the guy was such a bright spot when he played, maybe a little too much side to side at times. But when he did get forward, and he's not like AJ, he's not going to blow you apart. But he's the other side of the game that we liked about AJ, which was the going forward part from your defensive midfield. Mm-hmm. And I don't have anything more to say about the guy other than, wow, he is going to be a serious player if he continues to progress.
Yeah, man, would have been nice to see him a little more, but the glimpses we got of him were great. He did score 2 goals for us, so thankful for Max to be on the team. Hopefully he finds success down at Louisville even more, right? Louisville.
Right. And I think if you hearken back to his first year at Louisville, it kind of speaks to what we saw in that he played in, I think he featured in 6 or 7 games at Louisville, and it was all end of the year. So it took him a little while to kind of get going with the team he was in. And I thought you saw that with us. Was like it took a while to be like, who's this Max kid? And then you're like, wow, Max can ball. And mm-hmm. I think that's what we learned out of Max. The next, Connor Stevenson. Connor was kind of in and out of the team. Did a lot of his summer with his under-19 team, so it was kind of like I said, came in and out, but scored a big goal in his homecoming, and he's decorated. He was Mr. Minnesota Soccer. Did some serious work for Loyola. Is a teammate of Ike's in college, and another guy that I think if he continues on the trajectory that he's on, is another guy that we'd love to have back.
Totally. Another, like you said, just a young kid, and I was happy to see him show up this last game and make an impact. I think that was something that I was missing out of him. I mean, he did start our first game in Milwaukee, and I thought, oh man, this guy might be a little too. He might be out of his league here.
A little green,
but a little green for us. But man, he showed his worth here near the end of the season. Definitely a kid that developed pretty well.
Yeah, and I think the next person you can talk about too developing well is he's like Pele. He's got one name, Steve.
I love it.
Ian Smith, who I don't know if he is the youngest player on the team, but another high school kid who featured in a lot of games. Didn't necessarily start outside of Madison, where we had, everyone who listens to this knows what happened to Madison. But another MTA product who he's going to Green Bay next year. It's going to be in his first college season. I think will that MTA disease, we call it, of more side to side and less direct going forward will kind of be I don't know if I say beaten out of him, but it'll be less, work it out of him. It'll be less. It'll work through when he gets to college. But I mean, another guy that we can kind of hitch our wagon to in the future is, if he comes back, and it's that opportunity for us to see him grow as a player. And I mean, it's like we talked about with the defenders, kind of tough for a guy like Steve to unseat, Max, who's a little bit older than him, a year or two, and then AJ, right?
But I think he still got some serious playing time. He did start a couple times, I thought, but either way, even if for games he didn't start, he featured prominently.
Yep. And he's on the books with Stegman's Old Boys. He played with us last week.
Oh.
So there's that. If he never comes back, he's on the books with Stegman's. Then we have Ryan Camerata, who saw kind of limited action too, coming off the bench. Stegman's guy, was man of the match in the Fargo game, the Summit Keg match, scoring 2 goals.
Yep.
Just another guy who we relied upon from a experience standpoint. Came in when he could, and did his thing. And nothing flashy, but just doing his job.
Yeah, well, I mean, what do you say? This is kind of this is the epitome of, you get contributions from everywhere when you're a team that recruits like we do.
Right.
And it's good of him to be able to help us out. I know he did feature in a couple of our early games, and then we didn't really see him until Fargo. But when we saw him in Fargo, bam, we saw him. We really saw him.
We've got a whole lot of Ryan Camerata in that
he
game.
made sure we saw him.
Yep, exactly. And then the last 2 guys from a midfield perspective, and then I'll stop talking for a little while, was Jack Mylar. I always get it wrong. Unfortunately for us and for Jack, ankle injury early on, and when he joined us, that kind of put him out for most of the summer. And then he kind of featured at more of a central back role. We needed kind of a little bit more of an attacking-minded center back. He's going into his, I believe, his second year at Harvard. Another guy, I haven't had my full exit interview with him, but I talked to him a little bit about, kind of how he thought things went. And another guy who's all in on making this a thing again, I believe. It'd be great to see him in more of that kind of role that AJ and Max play. However, we figure that out. We're definitely blessed with a lot of central defensive midfielders, which is usually a position you don't have a strength in. But another guy who just, when he could play, went in, did his job. Not going to blow your doors off, but does his job. And then Luke Hackinson, who only figured in 1 competitive game. Another guy like Sam Forsgren, who, erring on the side of caution, going into college with a little bit of an injury. We didn't want to risk anything for him personally. That guy is good at soccer. And I mean, you can tell, product of Shattuck, you can tell he played soccer every day, and is going to be so dynamic in college. He's going to Creighton, one of the best teams in the country, probably one of the most decorated of all of the recruits that we have that are coming off of our team. Would have loved to see him more in the summer.
Yeah, I think it was great to see Jack finally arrive on the scene, and I think his decision making was there. I think he was able to physically compete with the teams we played against. Would have been cool to see him a little earlier, but big kid. But also another one of those guys like Goose, like Steve, young dude who's just super well spoken and really happy to be part of the team. And then Luke, like you said, wish we saw more of him. Talked to his dad briefly. That's about as good as it gets. That's about as good as I got with Luke. But hopefully we'll see him again. We did miss Samo. We missed out on Samo.
Oh yeah, Samo. How do you feel about Samo?
I don't know, man.
I thought out of the bright spots of the year when it comes to a learning curve, I thought Samo had a really big one. Being that he's a attacking minded central midfielder, which we're kind of low on outside of Wexler, and then Luke and Sam Forsgren, who came in late. We relied heavily on Samo, who featured in almost every game for us this summer. And he's a Division III player. And you look at Division I versus Division III and you think, they must not be good enough. He's absolutely good enough to play at the highest level in college. Just found his niche in Division III. And I would be hard-pressed to not believe that when it comes to him outside of playing with us, that he's not going to be highly decorated in college as he gets older. I mean, the guy has the vision and the offensive mind that a lot of the guys that come out of this area don't have because they're more side-to-side, backwards, keep possession, where he is more of a risk-taker. And you can tell he is of Spanish descent because he plays like a Spaniard. He wants to keep the ball, but he goes forward when he wants to make smart decisions forward versus just going forward to kick the ball and go forward.
Yeah, I've been a huge fan of Samuel since we interviewed him. I thought he had a lot of pretty good things to say. He seemed like a pretty chill dude. I think my only knock on him is that he never held up his end of the bargain. He never held up his end of the bet.
The
This guy he was supposed to cut his hair like the boss and straight ignored us.
I know. And he still had some. He still had a pretty sick flow throughout the season. So
yeah, can't blame him for wanting to keep those luscious locks.
Yeah.
But
by the
he has to
time
get the entertainment value once in a while.
by the time I end my relationship with Sam Ruiz Plaza, he will cut his hair into the Bosworth if it kills me.
Let's move on to the forwards. We only have 3 dedicated forwards on our team. We had some guys that were able to move into attacking roles. But the 3 on the team, we'll start with Tim Willis. Tim is your boy from Stegman's. Tim was kind of a rock that was able to come in when we needed him, and did he come to Madison with us too?
Played the full 90 in Madison.
Full 90 in Madison, which is tough for an old man.
Well, he's not really old.
It's true.
We joke with like Elder because he's the eldest statesman in the goalkeeping room.
He's like 24.
Yeah. We say, oh yeah, he's like 28. No, he's 24. Same with Tim. Like Tim looks wiser beyond his years, more seasoned. But Tim's just a great forward when it comes to holding play up, and that was a job that we found often with our forwards, that they had to hold the ball up because that link up with our defense wasn't there at times. Just did what we asked him to do, and another member of Stegman's who just came in and did work. Yep.
The next guy on my list, who I admittedly have been a little hard on this season, is Matthew Guay. I think he came highly touted. I was pretty excited to see his play, and then he shows up and starts scoring a goal real quick, which was awesome, and then kind of fell off the table, sort of disappeared. So I was a little bummed about that, and at least he finished strong. He scored a goal with us at the end of the season here. I think my big knock on him was maybe just a little too dependent on that attack coming towards him, and maybe a little less willing to go back for the ball and to kind of do his own thing. I think he kind of hung out a little too much at the top of the pitch for my liking. But
mine with my only knock on Matthew was that first off, great guy. Personally, went through a lot in his life to get where he is today, and coming from Africa and having the problems he had with his family and just everything going on over there. But I think with my knock on him is he needed to be more dynamic off the ball. And I think he finally was. And that's what we saw him in the last game. And I mean, he's another guy I'd love to have back, right? Like one more year of that guy would be great so we can game plan for him.
Yeah. And speaking of guys that would be great to have back, I think Andy Laurie, kind of the heart and soul of the offense on this team, and the mouth of the offense on this team as well. Great getting to know this guy this year. Great to see him have a couple of really good games, good goal scoring game against the reserves, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
And always nice to have a solid leader on the other end of the pitch from Matthew.
I mean, locker room guy. You look up locker room guy in the encyclopedia that you have on your bookshelf, and you see a picture of Andy Laurie, right? Yeah. Like the guy, great interview, great guy, great at soccer, just someone you need to have on your team. And we were so lucky to have him throughout the summer.
All right, so let's jump into the player rewards, and I just want to remind everyone these are highly unofficial and very editorial. John, is the team going to announce official awards this year?
We do like an end of the year party and award ceremony with Stegman's as a club, and I think what we'll probably do is couple that together when these guys are back, so that we kind of have like a all club, because we are all one. So I think that's what we'll end up doing again this year. But I have to talk to the powers that be to see if that's going to be the case.
Makes sense.
So yeah, dive into it.
All right, man. So we'll start with Young Player of the Year. This award is pretty specific, so it's going to be pretty obvious who this goes to.
Right.
Only a couple guys could qualify.
Right. We have a young player of the award, and it's definitely for the young player of the year, the one that we give the most recognition to, and I think like you said, hands down, it goes to the guy who we've already talked about as being a surprise and a blessing, and that's Goose. And
Yep.
there's not really much more to say than the guy earned it. Out of all the young players in the limited time before he got injured, was our best attacking player.
That's for sure. How could it not be Goose?
Right.
Next up is the most improved player.
Right. This one, again, you don't need a whole lot of definition. But this guy, I thought, and I mentioned it earlier on from the beginning of the season when I first saw him to the end in our last game against Minnesota United, I thought constantly did what we asked him to do, and had some spots where was asked to do maybe some things that were a little bit more than his pay grade, but definitely did what he needed to do in those opportunities, and that's Kevin Hoof. And I think that another year of college and a continued growth pattern of what we've seen, he's going to be a really big bright spot for us.
Yeah, man, I agree. Next up is breakout player or surprise player of the year.
I'm going to let you take this one. I think we both agree on this one 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we've both got Max down. I think Emmanuel Brown deserves a mention as someone who, I think is a surprise. But, Max Teague, we've said it a couple times. Who knew this guy was so smooth?
Right. So smooth, so good. Like all of them, hope he comes back next year. I think he is a guy who, puts a little muscle on, becomes a lot like a player like Wexler, but a little more, defensive minded than Wex might be.
Yep. Offensive MVP. We've got 3 MVP categories. Offensive being, of course, the most exciting of them all. That's got to go to our Golden Boot winner, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. I think, you talk about Goose being our big bright spot. He didn't play the whole year, but this guy did. And just the engine, the I don't even want to call it the little engine that could, just the engine that never stopped. And that was Will Kidd, who constantly going forward in the attack, whether it be from the wing, where we moved him into the middle, just through sure will, no pun intended, was always around the ball when it came into the offensive third and scoring the most goals for the team. Excuse me.
Saved our butts a couple times, once in Cedar Rapids.
Yeah, exactly. And just did his thing and gonna go back to Illinois and go play for Bradley and do his thing there. And that's all you can ask for in a player. Just do your job, and he did it very well this summer.
He likes to run.
Yep.
All right, defensive MVP. Now we've got a tie here for defensive MVP.
Yes. We have a tie in 2 players who it was because we couldn't really figure out which one was actually better. The pros and cons list were very alike, and that's Trey and Abdallah. And that's not to take anything away from any of our other defenders. These 2 guys just did their thing all year. I mean, I don't know if there's any more you want to add to that. It's tough.
I mean, we said it before. Trey was always a rock back there, and Abdallah won won Team of the Week awards for maybe 4 or 5 weeks, half the season. So that's not too bad, not too shabby.
And then our most decorated of all awards,
the most honorable of all the honors,
as far as the eye can see in the award cabinet, goes to our team MVP. And I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, man, I think it's got to be Matt Elder. I think as the guy that's the heart and soul of the team, always vocal on the field, always happy to represent Minneapolis City off the field. I think the guy, wanted to forge strong relationships with both the fans and, of course, with his fellow players, and it really showed. And I think for all those reasons, Matt's got to win team MVP.
I think so.
Not to mention that he was statistically the best keeper in the league for most of the season.
Right. I think I can't echo your statements any stronger. I think the one thing I'd like to mention, I mean, on the field, did his job. We talked about him coming back from his injury, did a great job of doing that. But I think the one thing that stands out for Matt when you talk about the off the field leadership role and really being the rock of the team was after every game, making sure that the guys, they're tired, win or lose, we're going to give a shout to the fans who came out to watch him play. And I thought it was very respectable. And hats off to Mr. Elder. I know when you listen to this, you'll do a little silent fist pump, and then do some sort of dynamite drop in when it comes to interview time next time we talk to you.
Hopefully. So
Nate, it's been a full season.
Yep.
Not to get corny or and sentimental, but this has been a great ride, man. Especially with you by my side as far as what we've been doing on this podcast. Tell me your best moments or moment of the season on this show. What were you thinking from day one when I asked you to do this with me? What's changed, and what do you take away from this exposure to the game? It's a little bit deeper than going to your son's youth matches or playing FIFA or watching your beloved Arsenal. Did I teach you anything?
Yeah, well, I think two things have changed. First of all, it's amazing to be part of an organization and a fan of an organization that gives you such great access to the players and to kind of the heart of how everything works. I think even if I wasn't on the podcast, you'd still feel a deeper connection, obviously, to these guys because they're us. They're one of us, man. All of them are us, and it's definitely different than cheering for Arsenal, or definitely different than cheering for United. Even that these guys are all local dudes that we get to know and get to meet and get to shake hands with on a weekly basis. And it's just been awesome to get to know them and to become fans of them. But awesome. as far as doing the show, I think this has been fun from the beginning, and it's just great to learn week in and week out how decisions are made on the field and how our tactics kind of affect the outcome of the game. It's one thing to sit back and say, I think this guy probably should have played harder. So it's another thing to say, to try to break it down and learn how to break it down, to say, we got beat over the top, or they had us on set pieces over and over again. That kind of stuff has been fun to learn, and I hope to do it again next year.
Well, I'm in charge of your contract, so you will be renewed if you choose to sign that contract. I think. I don't want to make this answer all about me because I try to do that often. But my favorite moment was our road trip to Madison with you and the totally un-airwave related trip that we took.
Yeah.
Just two dudes listening to Couple Fish concerts on the ride.
That was sweet. I agree with that. I think the Madison trip in general, from a game standpoint and a podcast standpoint, was my favorite as well.
I mean, being what seemed like the only two straight men eating lunch together during Pride weekend down at the mall in Madison before the match, to you sitting on the bench drinking beer and heckling the players while I helped Jeremy coach, or the 2.5 hour ride back where I pinch hit and drove for you in your car when that crazy moth attacked me while we were going 70 miles an hour down the freeway and on 94. I think, folks, that is the magic that you can't take away from this podcast. I thought that was an awesome trip.
Yeah, man, I agree. Well, next week it's going to probably be our last show for a while, but we're going to definitely get a member of the team in studio. We want to kind of go over their thoughts and their feelings on how the season panned out, maybe a game-by-game breakdown with some inside takes from a player standpoint, maybe get some hot takes that we hadn't heard before. Now that the season's over, maybe they can open up a little bit.
A little inside baseball.
Inside baseball. Hey, but also, really, we would like to thank Summit Brewing Company for being with us all season. It's been a long process to get this team on its feet, and
they were there the whole way.
It's successful, and Summit was with us the whole way. So definitely, from the suds they provided to the opportunity for us to say things like Zinga beer, German words. Summit has been a great sponsor. So please remember that they are turning 30 this year, and they're not too far off from the biggest party that they have ever thrown. the Backyard Bash, Saturday, September 10th. Go online to summitbrewing.com for more information on all the awesome bands, the beers they're going to be serving, and the tickets. Hey, if you want to get a hold of us, hit us up at mcscpodcast@gmail.com. Maybe you took umbrage to our awards. Maybe you like to mention other players as someone that maybe deserves some respect. You can tweet at us. Tweet at the team at MPLSCitySC. Tweet at John at JohnnyBusiness with 2 N's, 2 Z's, and 2 S's. Or tweet at me at Mexinate. And that is all for this week. One more full week left before we slice this bitch up into about a once-a-month thing during the off-season. Hey, we're going to just leave you as usual with our boys from Go Get 'em Tiger. They're going to blast us into outer space with cheat codes. Thanks for listening, everybody. I am Nate, as always, joined by John.
Hello and goodbye.
Enjoy.
Good day, people of Minnesota and elsewhere.
Forever.
Forever and ever.